The top stories tonight in Y News. Former government officials, re-electionists, and other personalities flocked to Comelec offices on the last day of the filing of Certificate of Candidacy for the 2022 polls.
The Commission on Elections declares the filing of COC successful and denies giving special treatment to the administration candidates.
Vice President Leni Robredo now focuses on uniting citizens as the election period begins.
The Tourism Department welcomes shorter quarantine period for travelers and the easing of age restrictions in the interzonal travel of fully vaccinated individuals.
The United Nations passes a resolution to create a special rapporteur who will be on the ground in Afghanistan.
Heavy rainfall across northern Italy has caused severe flooding and landslides.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Friday, October 8, 2021. I am William Theo.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website untvweb.com. I am Marvy Delfin.
First in the news, some former cabinet members of the present administration filed their certificate of candidacy today, but they will not run other political party. Nel Maribuhok details why.
Former Agriculture Secretary Manny Piñol will run under the ticket of Senators Panfilo Lacson and Vicente Soto III. Piñol said he cannot run under the administration party as this will contradict his principle.
I was actually involved in a head-on collision with the economic managers. And I believe that if I join the same party that promotes importation, that supports rice verification, it would actually run counter to my principles and my views.
Former presidential spokesman and Foreign Affairs Undersecretary Ernesto Abella meanwhile filed his certificate of candidacy as president.
Ako po ay tatakbo bilang kandidato para sa presidente ng Pilipinas. Dahil naniniwala po ako, may kailangang bigyang tugon sa bayan.
From the opposition group, former lawmakers Antonio Trillanes IV and Teddy Bagilat will run as senators under the slate of Vice President Leni Robredo and Senator Francis Pangilinan.
I would like to correct you that I was never vocal about running for Vice President. I articulated that in several interviews that if VP Leni would run for president, I would run for Senate.
TV personality and former Vice President Noli De Castro will seek a political comeback in the Senate. Kabayan is a candidate of Aksyon Demokratiko of Manila Mayor Isko Moreno.
Sabi nila, pwede ka namang maglingkod habang nasa radyo at television. Totoo po yan. Totoo po yan. Pero iba po ang paglilingkod pagdating ho sa Senado. Kapag ikaw ay gumagawa ng batas, yung laging inireklamo mo habang ikaw nagbo-broadcast, ay magiging kapaki-pakinabang na kapag i-translate ho ninyo sa batas.
Re-electionist Senators Sherwin Gatchalian, Richard Gordon, and Laila De Lima will seek a fresh term at the Senate. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the Commission on Election denies giving special treatment to the ruling party's Kusi faction on the last day of filing of certificates of candidacy. Meanwhile, Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa pulled a shocker after he filed at the last minute his candidacy for presidency. Harleen Delgado will tell us why.
At the 8th and final day of the filing of certificates of candidacies for the 2022 national and local elections, President Duterte once again made a surprise visit at the Harbor Garden tent to endorse the administration's senatorial bets. The president raised the arm of each senatorial candidate. These include former Public Works and Highway Secretary Mark Villar, Department of Information and Communications Technology Secretary Gregorio Honasan, former Department of Agrarian Reform Secretary John Castreciones, and Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo. Also included were Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission Chairman Greco Belhica, House Deputy Speaker Rodante Marcoleta, broadcaster Ray Langit, actor Robin Padilla, and OWA Deputy Administrator Mocha Uson, who will be running as first nominee under the Mothers for Change party list. However, this did not sit well with Senator Nancy Binay. In a tweet, Binay called out the Commission on Elections for supposedly giving special preference to the PDP Laban Kusi faction, calling it unfair. Comelec spokesperson James Jimenez was quick to deny this.
All the parties have received the same sort of treatment. The companions of the senatorial candidates were actually asked to go out precisely because it turned out that there were too many of them. I don't see the special treatment. Of course, we did have PSG here, but as we said earlier, the president is entitled to a security detail, and so allowances will have to be made for that.
Meanwhile, Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa filed his candidacy for presidency at the last minute. He was accompanied by Senator Francis Tolentino and Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi. According to the senator, it was the party who decided for him to continue the legacy of the Duterte administration.
Matagal na pero tinatago lang namin. Yan yung mga diskarte para kasi kung maaga ka magbalita, wala, titirahin ka kagad. Magpapile ba ako kung hindi ko gusto? Andito ako para tumakbo bilang Pangulo. Kaya nag-file ako.
When asked if Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte would eventually replace him via substitution, De La Rosa has this to say.
Hindi mas maganda. pero this is a party decision. This is not my personal decision. Kasi kung ako lang ang masusunod, kung papatakbuhin nila ako, tatakbo pa rin ako. I don't know how we will do it kung ganun ang mangyari. I don't know.
The Comelec will start releasing the tentative list of candidates on October 29, while substitution is allowed until November 15. From October 1 to 8, a total of 97 aspirants have filed their candidacies for president, 29 for vice president, 176 for senators, and 270 for party list representatives. For the poll body, the COC filing for the 2022 national and local elections has been successful. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Many other prominent local officials flocked to the Comelec offices on the last day of the filing of certificate of candidacy. JP Nunez details why live. JP, go ahead.
Yes, Diego, good evening. Today is the last day of the filing of certificate of candidacy for the May 9, 2022 national and local elections. Incumbent Marikina City Mayor Marcelino Marci Teodoro formalized his intention to run for another term today. Mayor Marci will face 1st District Representative Bayani Fernando, who filed his COC last Monday.
Pero umaasa ako na may pagbabago pa sa isip saka sa damdamin ni BF na isang tabi na yung sa galit niya na nadulot nga nung mga nakaraang panahon. Kung mangyari yun, tutulungan at susuportahan pa rin namin. Dahil ako, ang panawagan ko nga pagkakaisa. Ang panawagan ko nga yung magkatulungan. Sana hindi na kami mag-away-away pa.
Congressman Fernando wants to take back his former position to address flooding issues.
So, kinakailangan naman para mabago yung mayor, kinakailangan bumalik ako sa Marikina. At kinakailangan labanan ko siya para maalis. Walang gustong lumaban sa kanya. Ako ang pipilitan akong lumaban.
Meanwhile, Diego, Taguig 1st District Representative Leni Cayetano will try to make a comeback as the mayor of Taguig City. In Cebu City, Governor Gwendolyn Garcia seeks re-election as she faces former Tourism Secretary Ace Durano. Cebu Acting Mayor Michael Rama, meanwhile, will be head-to-head with Margot Osmeña, the wife of late Cebu City Mayor Tomas Osmeña, in the mayoralty race. In Benguet Province, the former Governor Crescencio Pacalso will now run as congressman of the province. That is our latest live. Back to you, Diego.
Thank you, JP Nunez, for that live report. The Department of Tourism welcomes a shorter mandatory quarantine for international passengers from green and yellow countries and jurisdictions. Meanwhile, the government has eased the age restriction for interzonal travel of fully vaccinated individuals from Metro Manila to areas with low risk of COVID-19. Rosalie Cos details why.
Tourism Chief Berna Romulo Puyat says the reduction of mandatory quarantine period for inbound travelers from countries with low risk of COVID-19 is an encouraging development for the country's tourism industry. The Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases has updated its quarantine and testing protocols for individuals coming from countries and jurisdictions under the green and yellow list. Vaccinated travelers can leave quarantine facilities as early as 5 days after arrival, while unvaccinated persons can go home 7 days after arrival. They should have negative RT-PCR test results on the 5th and 7th day respectively after arrival and should complete the remaining quarantine at home. However, the government clarified that general inbound tourism is still not allowed. Meanwhile, as the government is gearing towards further reopening the economy, age restrictions for interzonal point-to-point travel of fully vaccinated has also been eased. Those below 18 years old, those above 65 years old, as well as with health risk and pregnant women but are fully vaccinated are allowed for interzonal travel from Metro Manila to areas under General Community Quarantine and Modified General Community Quarantine. However, they are subject to guidelines and health protocols of the Department of Tourism and the local government unit of destination. DOT hopes as restrictions are being eased, more tourism workers and stakeholders will get back their jobs and livelihoods. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas is already seeing signs that the Philippine economy is recovering from the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic. Janice Inhente reports why.
Having a stable supply of meat, fish, and vegetables, reducing transport fare, and allowing some businesses to operate are clear signs that the economy is on its way to recovery. BSP Governor Benjamin Diokno said another indication is the slight easing of the country's inflation rate.
Ng maagap na aksyon ng pamahalaan ay nakapagpababa sa meat inflation dahil mula sa 22.1% noong Mayo, ang meat inflation ngayon ay bumagal na sa 15.6%. At maaari pa itong bumaba dahil sa kasalukuyang programa natin ng importasyon ng karne baboy at pansamantalang pagbaba ng taripa nito. Ngayon, bumababa na rin yung tinatawag na transport inflation.
Diokno also sees a possible reduction in the price of some basic goods in the next months.
Alam mo, ang target ng Bangko Sentral ay 3% plus or minus 1%. So it's 2 to 4. So itong taon na ito, dahil nga sa mataas na inflation mga nakarang buwan, ay mag-a-average siya ng 4.4%. Pero bababa ito sa 3.3% sa next year, 2022, at 3.2% sa 2023.
Janice Inhente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And in other news, the Department of Health conducted a survey among healthcare workers, and it appears that around 5,000 of them are willing to get booster shots, but on one condition. Isko Miguel tells us why.
The Department of Health presented alternative strategies for healthcare workers to be more protected against COVID-19 in their recent town hall meeting. Along with this, they conducted a survey to know who among them is willing to get their third dose or booster shot. Among 10,025 respondents, they were asked questions and showed many of them want to receive booster shots.
Yung una, sinabi natin, kayo ba ay interesadong makareceive ng booster dose? At mataas po ang nakuha natin, more than 90%. Kasunod na katanungan, kayo ba ay magpapabooster kung merong sapat na ebidensya at inirerekomenda ng eksperto? At mataas din po ang kanilang isinagot, more than 90%.
However, when asked who among would want to get their boosters without experts' approval, the number decreased to 50%.
Pero nung tinanong na, kayo ba ay magpapabooster kung walang sapat na ebidensya at hindi nirerekomenda ng ating mga eksperto? Bumaba na po ang kanilang sagot to 50%. Talaga pong pinaniniwalaan naman po ang science and evidence among our healthcare workers.
The DOH reiterated that they are open to give booster dosing to Filipinos, especially to healthcare workers. This is when there is enough proof that it provides additional protection against COVID-19.
We cannot guarantee that these third doses will really protect our healthcare workers. We also would like to recommend that, but we need to complete the evidence. So kaya nga po ngayon, tayo ay nag-allocate na ng mga budget para kung sakaling dumating yung time na may ebidensya na nakumpleto para sa mga booster doses, we will do that, no? Especially among our healthcare workers and the immunocompromised.
Isko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Philippines today posted 10,670 new COVID-19 infections, pushing the nationwide total of recorded infections to 2,643,494. The Department of Health, or DOH, said the number of active infections in the country has gone down to 118,203. Of this tally, 77.7% are mild, 13.4% are asymptomatic, 5.15% are moderate, 2.7% are severe, and 1.1% are in critical condition. The DOH noted that 2 laboratories failed to submit data on time. Meanwhile, the total tally of recoveries has risen to 2,486,059 after 7,691 more patients survived from the viral disease. The number of deaths related to COVID-19 has reached 39,232 with the addition of 191 new fatalities. Meanwhile, the overall global COVID-19 caseload has topped 236,854,356, while the deaths have surged to 4,836,281, according to the Johns Hopkins University. The U.S. is still the worst hit country, with the highest number of cases and deaths at 44,159,120 and 710,180 respectively, according to the CSSE, followed by India and Brazil.
Vice President Leni Robredo finds it difficult to push unity talks with other presidential candidates. Instead, VP Robredo decides to just focus more on uniting citizens. Asher Cadapan Jr. details why live. Good evening, Asher. Go ahead.
Good evening, Will. Vice President Leni Robredo explains that there were several points and principles that were not aligned among other presidential candidates. She realizes this after several talks with some of the then potential candidates tagged under the opposition.
Na mahirap ipilit yung unity kung sa mga basic na mga prinsipyo hindi kayo nagkakaisa. So yung sa akin, hindi na ako ganun ka-concerned ngayon than when I was first starting. Kasi lumalabas naman ngayon, kami talaga yung oposisyon.
VP Robredo further explains that she exerted a lot of efforts to unify many different personalities, but it can only be done up to a certain degree. She also believes that opposition votes will not be divided as they do not belong in the same voting bloc. Robredo refused to give further details of what were discussed in the unity talks out of respect to other parties. The vice president just want rather to focus more on the people.
While our lines remain open, yung focus na ngayon is uniting hindi yung mga principals, pero uniting yung taong bayan. Na-realize natin lalo na kahapon. Na-realize natin na nagkakaisa naman pala yung taong bayan.
Will VP Robredo accompanied Senator Francis Kiko Pangilinan filing his certificate of candidacy for Vice President for the 2022 national and local elections. Robredo is confident that Senator Pangilinan is all set and ready to better serve the country, being well-versed in different high government positions for decades. Will?
Yes, thank you, Asher Kadapan Jr., for those live updates.
News abroad. The United Nations passed a resolution to create a special rapporteur who will be on the ground in Afghanistan. Ia De Vera explains why live. Yes, Ia?
Kath, the UN body voted to establish an independent ground representative and a team of experts to monitor and report the situation of human rights in Afghanistan. This is in response to the growing concerns on violations of civil rights under the Taliban government. The resolution was voted in favor by 28 countries and abstained by 14, while China, Russia, Pakistan, Eritrea, and Venezuela voted against it. According to the European Union Ambassador Lottie Knudsen, this is an important step to prevent the worsening situation against human rights, especially to women and girls. This decision was also supported by the Amnesty International. According to the organization's Secretary General Agnes Callamard, this would enable gathering of evidence to ensure justice against the human rights violations and killings committed. Meanwhile, UN High Commissioner Michelle Bachelet is authorized to monitor the situation in Afghanistan until the commencement of the special rapporteur on March 2022. Kath?
Ia, is the Taliban government aware of this resolution? And if yes, how did they respond?
Yes, Kath, the Taliban officials were requested for a comment regarding this appointment. However, they have not provided any response yet. But Nasir Andisha, the Afghanistan ambassador to the UN who was appointed by the previous government, condemns the human rights abuses carried out in the recent months. Back to you, Kath.
Thank you, Ia De Vera, for that live report. Sweeteners such as diet soda may increase food cravings, especially in women and people with obesity. Jane Robles tells us why live.
People with obesity has greater brain reward activity after consuming artificial sweeteners, also known as sucralose. Greater brain reward activity means that those in these groups are tricked into thinking they are hungry after consuming beverages such as sodas and other sparkling fruit flavored drinks. In turn, it may result to consuming more calories. This is according to a study conducted by author Caitlin Page, a physician specializing in obesity at the University of Southern California. The findings also indicate that those with obesity, especially women, might be particularly sensitive to greater neural responsivity elicited by sucralose compared with sucrose consumption. The study also highlights the need to consider individual biological factors in research studies. It can also be used to further research on dietary recommendations regarding the use and efficacy of artificial sweeteners for body weight management. However, the male participants in the research study were found unaffected by ingestion of artificial sweetener. They did not have an increased hunger response the same way that females and people with obesity did. Back to you, Cass.
Thank you, Jane Robles, for that live report. The Ministry of Higher Education, Science, Research and Innovation, together with the British Council, aim to get Thai universities to be among the top 100 universities in the world within the next 10 years. 7 Thai universities are collaborating with top UK universities in various academic fields, dubbed as THUK World Class University Consortium. The ministry pushes forward their strategy known as Reinventing University for the higher education in the country to amend their operations and make their curriculums up to date. Achieving this feat is important to influence investors to do business in Thailand, and the universities in the country are a reflection of Thailand infrastructure, according to the Ministry Deputy Permanent Secretary Pasit Lorterapong. Meanwhile, the British Council Thailand states that it supports the country's ambition to be globally competitive and internationally recognized. Heavy rainfall across northern Italy has caused severe flooding and landslides. Annie Mancilia details why live. Good evening, Annie.
Good evening, Kath. More than 2 feet of rain poured in parts of Italy caused by extreme weather in only half a day, setting a new record in Europe. Red alerts were issued in the battered regions of Liguria, Piedmont, and Lombardy. Typically getting only 50 inches of rain in an entire year, the region of Rossignoli in Genoa, Liguria, recorded 29.2 inches of rain on Monday. Rossignoli Mayor Katia Picardo expressed her worry for its citizens. Nearby town of Cairo Montenotti also broke its previous record when 19.5 inches of rain fell in just 6 hours on Monday. Several rivers broke their banks, flooding the areas of Pontevedra, Cairo Montenotti, and the city of Savona. Meanwhile, facilities have been shut in the most populous area of Genoa, in the port city, including schools, parks, markets, sports facilities, and cemeteries. Kath?
Thank you, Annie Mancilia, for that live report. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I'm Kat Tumaraos, live from Bangkok, Thailand. Good evening.
Meanwhile, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno Domagoso fires back at Vice Leni Robredo's statement over the reason why she decided to run as president. Dante Amento tells us why live. Yes, Dante, go ahead.
Good day, Mariel. In an interview or ambush interview this afternoon, Vice President Leni Robredo said that her decision to run as president in a way being affected by the stance of Manila Mayor Isko Moreno Domagoso over the Marcos family. Moreno recently said that he admired the late President Marcos in a point as visionary.
In a way, I don't want to go into details, pero sa akin kasi merong mga non-negotiable. And yung mga Marcos non-negotiable.
But Mayor Isko was quick to answer back. He said fight among those families has not brought anything for our country and that we should already move on from this issue.
Ang away ng mga pamilyang yan, walang dinulot na buti sa ating bayan. Sila ay tumatakbo para maghiganti sa isa't isa. Sila ay tumatakbo dahil sa kulay ng kanilang politika.
Mayor Isko also called VP Robredo a fake leader with a fake collar.
Huwag kayong malilinlang sa pagpapalitan ng kulay. Ang tanso, tubugin man ng ginto, tanso pa rin.
Meanwhile, Mariel Moreno stresses that their team would focus over healing our country, especially this time of health crisis. And that's the latest live. Back to you, Mariel.
Thank you, Dante Amento, for that live report. And before we close, we will leave you with the word giving glory to God. From the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 10, verse 2, it says, "A wise man's heart is at his right hand, but a fool's heart at his left."
And those are the reasons behind the news, October 8, 2021. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Marvi Delfin.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Maraming mga pangalan yung fino-float. Pero sa discussions with many different groups, lumalabas na, yun yung sabi ko nga kay Sentico, na siya talaga yung choice na who makes the most sense. Unang-una, matagal na kami magkasangga sa laban. Pangalawa, shared yung aming mga paniniwala, mga prinsipyo, mga aspirations para sa bayan. Na mahirap ipilit yung unity kung sa mga basic na mga prinsipyo hindi kayo nagkakaisa. So yung sa akin, hindi na ako ganun ka-concerned ngayon than when I was first starting. Kasi lumalabas naman ngayon, kami talaga yung oposisyon.
Hindi mas maganda. Pero this is a party decision. This is not my personal decision. Kasi kung ako lang ang masusunod, kung papatakbuhin nila ako, patakbo pa rin ako. I don't know how we will do it kung ganun ang mangyari. I don't know.